Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our annual wildfire briefing where we talk about the risks of the upcoming season, which is a moderate fire risk season. We also talk about some of the tools that we have, some of the new tools. We want to thank the state legislature and the federal government for their investment in fire prevention and control and how we're going to deploy some of those tools, and we'll be happy to take your questions. I want to take a moment to thank Wings Over the Rockies for hosting us today. Public Safety Director Stan Hilke's with us, Division of Fire Prevention and Control Director Mike Morgan, Colorado State Forest Director Matt McCombs is with us, a number of others. I just had a 1-hour briefing and got to dig down on some of the fire risks we face and some of the additional resources bringing to bear to prevent small fires from becoming large, to hit them fast and hard, to keep our communities safer. Extreme ongoing conditions, which include a lot of fuel from the pine beetle kill and continuing declining forest health. Of course, there's an increasing number of homes in the wildland-urban interface. They've all really elevated the issue of wildfires. As you know, during my 5 years as governor, Colorado has had the 3 largest wildfires in the entire history of the state of Colorado. We've also had the most destructive fire in the history of the state of Colorado, the Marshall Fire. The recovery for that will likely continue through 27. The 3 largest fires, summer of 2020. And while we saw fewer fires last year, that doesn't change the fact that we always need to be ready for the next disaster. As you know, we've already had some fires, including fires that were elevated to state fires this year already. We are working on improving the firefighter workforce in several ways. One of those is we expect that we will make training for firefighters at community colleges free. At least for the next 2 years. That bill either has passed or will pass shortly. That also includes several healthcare professions, some construction industry trades, and law enforcement, and firefighting is one of those. And that's also a real free. It means, as I like to say, no shipping and handling. There's no textbook charges, no processing. It's actually free to be able to get certified as a firefighter. We are also working on creating more housing options for Coloradans because firefighters often can't afford to live near the communities they serve. And when firefighters are forced to live 45 minutes or an hour away, not only does it make recruiting and retention a lot harder, but it decreases readiness. And we are working on more housing now, along with firefighters across the state, to make sure that members that are first line responders that work in communities can afford to live in our communities. The state of Colorado is also launching a new public outreach campaign in May during Wildfire Awareness Month, along with our partners in the U.S. Forest Service and Colorado Fire Chiefs. It's called Live Wildfire Ready, which will raise wildfire awareness among Coloradans, share information about how we can reduce risk. I was impressed with, in the presentation, sort of the record levels of fire treatments, risk reduction that has been done by Forest Service, by BLM, and by other partners. That's increasing. Especially because of renewed federal investment, but also additional state investment, and that's a way to make our communities safer. The Live Wildfire Ready campaign will share actions that Coloradans can take to live wildfire ready. And wildfires, of course, are a part of nature in Colorado, but we've all seen what can happen, especially as people live close to the wildland-urban interface, and climate change affects the conditions related to wildfire risk. We want to make sure we're using every tool possible, from response efforts like the Firehawks to prevention efforts like brush removal, and that includes individual efforts at the home level, which make an enormous difference. And I encourage Coloradans to look at additional steps they can take at the home level to reduce fuel in and around your home, saving your home in the case of the unthinkable. This is a moderate fire risk season. Again, that's a result of 2 things that go into this annual projection. One is the fact that we have significant fuel out there, pine beetle kill, other fuel. The second is they have a long-term weather forecast with some degree of confidence. Obviously not the degree we see on a weekly basis, but the conditions for June and July are incorporated into the projections that lead to the moderate risk assessment today. And so we want to make sure that across our state, we are more ready than ever before for whatever nature throws our way. We're in a stronger position with a record amount of fire treatment. We're in a stronger position with the level of aerial resources that we have. But we know the difficult challenges that we might face, and we're ready to face them together as a state. With that, I'm happy to turn it over to Director of Public Safety, Stan Hilke.
Thank you, Governor. Hi, everybody. Stan Hilke, Executive Director of the Department of Public Safety. Thank you for being here today. Our state, we just had a briefing. It's a statutory briefing we have to do every year for the governor on our wildfire outlook projections and readiness. And as you can see by the patches and uniforms in the room today, we have a lot of state partners, a lot of federal partners and local partners that we could not do this work without. There's a national structure of coordination and interagency cooperation involving all three branches or levels of government, local, state, and federal. It works well, but also it can become difficult during high fire season. So we at the state also want to make sure that we have a level of readiness that we can rely on to make sure that we are able to respond and be rapid and aggressive in our initial attack for fire. That has been something that has been an ongoing effort within the Division of Fire Prevention Control in the Department of Public Safety. We work year-round to mitigate, prevent, and suppress potential wildfires. And while these efforts aim to reduce wildfire risk, we cannot control the weather and the snowpack and the fuel conditions. And I want to say that right now in this date and time, we're going to be talking, you'll hear news reports about flooding, and you might hear about high levels of snowpack, and that's what's causing this moderate prediction of wildland fire for our state right now. But that is always subject to change. Want to make sure that our media friends help us get the word out that as you look over the entire summer, that prediction could change. We get high temperature, low humidity, high winds, and a lack of monsoonal moisture that could turn us into another situation where we are expecting more wildland fire. We want to make sure that we stay ready. And we really appreciate our media partners being here today to help us get the message out, because individual preparedness and personal responsibility is going to be a key to helping us protect our state, protect the safety of the people that live in our state, their homes, their property, and lives. So we'd ask that our local residents, our communities, particularly peoples that are living in the wildland urban interface, get signed up now to receive safety information from your local fire agency, from your local sheriff's office, from your police department. Follow them on social media. Pay attention to those postings. Pay attention to local emergency alerts, and make sure that you reach out and stay informed when you're traveling and recreating as well. Not just when you're at home, but when you go throughout the state and you go camping out in the woods, make sure that you stay in tune and in touch with those kinds of areas to make sure that you're receiving the latest information as well. And when fires do occur, please be aware and respect any local public safety messages and area closures and evacuation notices if they were to occur. Our motto at the Department of Public Safety is that we're safer together. When we can reduce the danger to lives and property caused by wildfires, if we can do that in a way that we're all doing it together, we think that Colorado can remain safe. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Particularly thank all of you in the media for helping us get this message out. Now I'd like to ask Mike Morgan from the Division of Fire Prevention and Control to come up.
Thank you, Director Hilke. It is my pleasure to present the 2023 Wildfire Preparedness Plan to the Governor and the General Assembly, and it'll be made available to you today immediately following this press conference as well. This plan includes information on the wildfire outlook and the state's plan for responding to wildfires in 2023. In order to understand this plan, I think it's important that we look backwards and we see what we've experienced in the years past and what we do know from history. We know that historically wildfires were 4 months a year. We also know that today the average core wildfire season is 78 days, almost 3 months longer than in the 70s, with Colorado experiencing larger fires every month of the year. When I started in this business in the late 80s, mid 80s, we called Colorado the asbestos forest because we didn't have big fires. That is not the world and the environment we live in today. As the governor mentioned, 20 of the 20 largest wildfires in Colorado history have occurred in the last 20 years, with 4 of the 5 largest fires happening in 2 fire seasons in 2018 and 2020. Extreme drought conditions, hazardous fuel accumulations, hot and dry conditions create conditions for fast-moving, large-scale fires. DFPC is developing a strategy to be prepared for year-round and more destructive wildfires by shifting our resources to a model that allows us to respond more effectively to Colorado's growing wildfire seasons. This wildfire plan is a part of a holistic, comprehensive approach to wildfire management that includes suppression, response, fuels, forest management, and mitigation activities of all types. There is no silver bullet. There is no one thing that will take us out of this risk and threat that we live with. Live wildfire ready, that changes those conditions because of the conditions of the forest and the drought conditions we're experiencing. We have to always be prepared for that. This plan is based on lessons learned from previous years and also implemented new tools and capacities, as well as a result of recommendations of the Colorado Fire Commission and support from the Governor's Office and the Colorado General Assembly. We will coordinate with our local, state, and federal partners to leverage all available resources to increase response capacity and effectiveness. There is no one agency that can do this alone. Our current Colorado Fire Outlook, as the Governor mentioned, it indicates that a normal fire potential is expected across Colorado for the outlook period of April through July. Historically, that means of periods of elevated fire potential in the lower elevations, especially along and east of the Front Range foothills, in southeast Colorado, and in the San Luis Valley during dry and windy conditions, which is what the Governor was talking about. This is due to long-term persistent drought and exposed carryover fuels, the beetle kill, the things that the Governor mentioned, from the last season's growth and historic activities. It is important to note that while the 2023 preseason outlooks do not indicate elevated fire potential early in the core fire season, as opposed to many of the previous years, wildfires will still occur and large wildfires are still likely. On an average year in the state of Colorado, we will have 5,500 wildfires burning 220,000 acres. That is a normal year. Some of those will get away. We'll do our best with our strategies and the resources that have been provided to us for early detection and aggressive initial attack on those fires that are threatening communities. Periodic fire potential outlooks beyond July will be updated and released throughout the year. What a lot of Coloradans don't see are the ground and air resources that are finding and attacking new fires when they're smaller, increasing our success in limiting fire size, duration, costs, and impacts. Early detection, aggressive initial attack for unwanted fires. DFPC manages a contracted and state-owned aviation fleet along with ground resources to support your local fire department and your sheriff. This includes 2 Type 2 helicopters, 1 Type 1 helicopter, 2 single-engine air tankers, 2 Pilatus PC-12 multi-mission aircraft equipped with multiple cameras, including infrared, available for fire detection and mapping, 1 large air tanker, 7 engines, and 5 modules. The much anticipated Firehawk is scheduled to be delivered by May 31st and will be operational for basic wildfire missions by July 1st. The Firehawk is ideally suited for responding to wildfires in Colorado due to its ability to fly in Colorado's hot, high-fly environment. Additionally, the flexibility of the Firehawk is one of its strongest assets, with the ability to fly anywhere in the state and arrive within about an hour. The state-owned Firehawk will increase DFPC's capacity to respond to fires on a year-round basis and set response priorities based upon Colorado's needs first. We continue to emphasize a model of using technology like the multi-mission aircraft and the FireGuard program with our partnership with the Department of Defense to detect new fires early when they're small so that decision makers and incident commanders can make timely, informed decisions on management actions and order the appropriate resources early. We provide resources to the counties and fire departments in the early stages of an incident with the purpose of taking quick, effective initial attack actions. We support these because we know it's cheaper for us to keep these fires small, these threatening fires small, than allowing to become large conflagrations. This assistance includes funding for interagency aviation and hand crew resources, as well as providing DFPC aviation resources, ground resources, and technical support. And I want to also mention that our federal partners are in this together. We are one of the, I believe, the only state in the nation that has a 24-hour mutual aid agreement for all resources, regardless of who's contracted with that. We send the closest available resource, whether that be a state-owned asset or a USDA asset or a DOI asset. We send the closest available resource and let those fire chiefs and those sheriffs take care of the things that they need to take care of without worrying about having to do a bake sale to put fuel in their trucks. Fire is a concern for all communities and our entire state, and all of us need to be a part of the solution. We're calling on those that live, work, and play in Colorado to help reduce the impact of fires by being vigilant, respecting fire restrictions when they're in place, and doing your part to protect your property from wildfire. As Director Hilke mentioned, conditions change fast in Colorado. So never forget the environment that you're in and that we will always have to live with fire. And with that, I will turn it over to Director Matt McCombs.
Thank you, Director Morgan. Again, so I'm Matt McCombs. I'm the Director of Colorado State Forest Service and your state forester. The Colorado State Forest Service is the lead state forestry agency in the state of Colorado. Our primary duties are, one of our key primary duties is to help Coloradans reduce wildfire risk to their lives, homes, property, and communities. Coloradans must adapt to a new normal for wildfire. Drought and warmer temperatures are increasing wildfire risk, while at the same time Coloradans are moving into wildfire-prone areas, and under the right conditions, fires can have devastating consequences. So when we think about the holistic approach to fire management in the state of Colorado, we're really excited to foot stomp what the governor already discussed as it relates to our Live Wildfire Ready campaign. The intent of this campaign is to ensure that all Coloradans know their risk and that they are given the opportunity to be matched with the tools and the resources in order to reduce that risk. We each have to do our part in reducing Colorado's risk as it relates to wildfire. Investments at the state and federal and local level are actually hitting the ground to significantly change the nature of the landscape and hopefully changing the way people see themselves as it relates to the landscape. Millions of dollars are going into communities to ensure that community wildfire protection plans are updated and have the most up-to-date data, and are prioritizing actions to ensure that all investments are put to their highest and best use. Reducing fuels is one of our most effective ways to lower the risk of large-scale destructive wildfires, and actively managing grass, shrub, and forest lands significantly could influence fire behavior and absolutely gives our firefighters a leg up in response. We know mitigation works. We know we can make a difference, and if every landowner and if every citizen and resident of this state can step forward and do their part, we fundamentally believe we could continue to move ourselves forward as we face down the challenges of a warming climate and a growing population. So I encourage everyone to stop by our booth today and get your sticker and get familiar with the Live Wildfire Ready campaign. And when you live in Colorado, it has to be second nature. Thank you.
That's everybody. Questions? Going once?
Is there an area that you're more concerned about? I know you said it's moderate, but is there a certain area of the state where you're like, man, that could be a potential hot?
Yeah, I'll let, I know it's southeast, right? So, southeast.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the question. Southeast Colorado, most of the rivers right now, the snowpack, or most of them are about 160%, which is good. However, I'm drawing a blank on the river. Arkansas River drainage, thank you, is at about 94%. We are seeing some conditions down in southeast Colorado right now that are compared to Dust Bowl type of conditions, of the drought conditions in extreme southeast Colorado. So we've had several state responsibility fires down there, as the governor alluded to, and we continue to see a lot of activity down there.
And can you just elaborate? You said May 30th, 1st or 30th, the new tool in the toolbox, the helicopter plane, or can you just talk about what it is?
Sure. The Firehawk #1, the state's first purchased Firehawk helicopter, which is a Sikorsky S-70 helicopter that is converted into a firefighting aviation aircraft. That aircraft is scheduled to be delivered here around May 31st, and we have representatives from Sikorsky or from United Rotorcraft that can speak to that individually if you have more questions on that, but that's the timeline for it.
I'd also add that the Firehawk can operate up to 70 mile an hour winds, so many conditions across our state. I also want to thank the firefighters here with us today. National Guard members here with us today, as well as all those who are out in the field doing really important work. Thank you to our firefighters and National Guard members. Any final questions? Thank you all so much for joining our annual fire briefing.